true.
A lot of people try and keep it short and don't want to too long story. What AGMs?
I remember you before. Back, yeah? Come on back. Come on back. I
You must be young and riding a bike a lot. You might have to go and lengthy, so no, not quite enough. But it's still very good. Good, thanks. No worries.
Thanks for your work on the thing, Jane.
What's that?
I could say it's a no-brainer for everyone to pick up on. Right, and all we just do nothing but positive, encouraging.
I'll leave it down.
Some of them are rules. But this one's I come from my knowledge to us. That's why
Have a show, for sure. They go. Very good. I don't think it's that magic idea for Germany. Carvalho was support under Privic, start on nation force. Do you believe that she will take every cut? Some problems?
Pardon? Yeah, that on the jet on it, but it's too jet. Yeah, so big small, yeah.
closer so we can hear, because we can't hear you down here.
Just gossiping at the moment. Going into the meeting, we'll be actually talking tonight.
Yeah.
We want to hear the gossip too. Good afternoon, councillors, officers and members of the public. Welcome along. Great to see a really full house in the gallery tonight. I declare this meeting open. Under announcements, I note with sadness the passing of Mr. Vern Haley, a long-time servant of the city, more than 30 years involvement with the city as an employee, and very heavily involved in a lot of community events and organisations, including District Governor of Rotary. He was Chairman of ACWest and Chairman of the Southwest, was the National Inlet Management Authority, LEMA, plus a lot of other things, and a JP. So Vern sadly passed away aged 90 last week. Congratulations to the Access Committee for the conference on Monday. Congratulations to Councillor Kelly and your team, and to Adam Johnson. That was a fantastic forum and well received. Also congratulations to the Special Olympics group and the hard-working committee members that make Special Olympics worthwhile and so special every year. And last night a number of elected members and officers joined with me in hosting the reception for the Diveken. The visit of the Diveken replica ship is in port, and we've been given a very handsome. Before you leave, councillors, in the foyer, there's a beautiful encased replica of the Diveken, which is their gift to the city for appreciation for the city for hosting this week by the visit of the ship. So we move on. We're all here. Declarations of interest. Councillor Steck declares a financial interest in item 10.4.1 as a partner owns the Minnanut Shopping Forum. Councillor Jones declares a proximity and impartiality interest with respect to item 10.4.5 as she is the chair of Alliance Housing. Councillor Jones also declares a proximity interest with respect to item 10.4.3 as her primary place of residence is in Gibbs Street. Councillor Miguel declares a financial and proximity interest with respect to item 10.4.5 as he owns property in the immediate vicinity of the proposed development. Councillor Kelly declares a financial and proximity interest with respect to item 10.4.5 as he is a board member of Accord West. Are there any further declarations of interest, councillors? Thank you. We have no public questions tonight. Can someone move the confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting? Councillor Giles, Councillor Cook, all in favour? It's carried unanimously, thank you. Someone prepared to move the Audit Committee minutes be noted. Councillor Jones, Councillor McGuell, all in favour? It's carried unanimously, thank you. Do we have any petitions? Requests for deputations. We have several tonight, councillors. From Mr. Peter Murder, I hope I pronounced that right, from Urbanista Town Planning, wishes to speak to item 10.4.1. Those who approve, please indicate. Mr. Robert McNabb, on behalf of Christy McNabb, wishes to speak to item 10.4.2. Those who approve, please indicate. That's approved. Mrs. Joanne Goff wishes to speak to item 10.4.3. Those who approve, please indicate. That's approved. And Mr. McIntosh and Mr. Fitzgerald wish to speak to item 10.4.5. Those who approve, please indicate. Yep, we're good. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, when we get to those items, I'll invite you up. You have 5 minutes and we have a clock running to indicate the time. Councillors, can someone move item 8.5.1, the conference report? Councillor Cook, seconder. Councillor McCleary, all in favour? That's carried unanimously, thank you. So, councillors, dealing with tonight's agenda, at this moment coming out are 10.1.1, 10.1.2, 10.4.1, 10.4.2, 10.4.3, 10.4.4 and 10.4.5. Are there any other items that anyone wishes to pull out? Councillor Steck.
Thank you, sir. We just put out 10.3.1. Just two questions on it.
10.3.1. Further any other items, councillors? Can someone move the balance, please? Councillor Cook. Councillor Hayward, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. .11. Some are prepared to move the recommendation. Councillor Hayward, is there a seconder? Councillor Steck. Councillor Hayward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to talk to you about this motion. The Withers Advisory Committee was set up to help the City coordinate a response to the Withers Action Plan, which was adopted by Council some years ago. On the list, the Council adopted 22 items which it agreed the community needed, and funds were made available by Council for that purpose. Included on the original list was the community's desire to see more activities for youth and children in the area. That list was created by the Withers community and compiled and delivered here to the Council by the Withers Action Group. The WAC then reviewed the 22 items on the Withers Action Group list to identify the key deliverables it believed it could be achieved with the funds it had available. The 22 items were reduced down to 9 items. In that process, that list included providing some sort of activities for children in the community. So it was brought up by the Withers Action Group first on the original plan, and it survived a review, if you like, of that plan to the top 9 priorities, and activities for children in the suburb remained on the list. So at that point, the desire from the community has gone through 2 separate community consultation processes, and it had also been already adopted by this council. So council already adopted the 22, and part of that 22 was about providing activities for children in the suburb. The legitimacy of this project to be funded by the WAC has been robust. But further to those consultations which had already taken place, in November of last year, we again consulted with key stakeholders in the community who worked in this youth work space to get them together to see how council could facilitate a response. The outcome of that meeting confirmed that the need for activities and meaningful youth work in the suburb was both urgent and vital. It's disappointing, I have to say, that our response here at council to that decision last November has taken nearly 10 months before we get to make a decision on it tonight. The item does not specifically talk about what exactly will be rolled out. There's nothing in there that says they'll be making pizzas or playing basketball or boxing or doing any specific youth activity. It does set out some key parameters. It needs to engage the children of the area. It needs to run over 2 years. There must be a plan to make the program self-sustainable over that period of time. Tonight we're making a decision about whether or not we will allow the WAC to fund this program, which clearly is in its mandate to deliver. It's what we asked them to do. Our decision should support the community through the process which has been outlined. At our last meeting, we just allocated $65,000 to build a toilet at the Withers Library. And tonight, we're going to be arguing about whether we can put $115,000 into running programs for youth in the community. The $115,000 makes up about 7% of all the money that was allocated to Withers through the state government's 3.5% of all the money, and about 7% of our money. So more than most of the rest of the funds, 93% of our money and significantly higher, sorry, I got my figures mixed up, over 90% of our money and even more of the total money has already been spent on either infrastructure or planning for those infrastructure upgrades. So we're talking about a small amount of money in the scope of what it is that we're looking to do. We have the money, we can address this issue, and if we don't do it, what can council do? Council can allocate the money and we can get some service providers in to make a difference in that suburb amongst its young people, or we can decide tonight that no, we're not going to do that, and what are we going to do? Well, the answer is nothing. We have the power right now to make a decision that will actually make a difference to young people in the community of Withers. It would be a disappointing outcome if we couldn't do that. Kids in the area statistically the highest rate of vulnerability and social disadvantage in that suburb. It talks in the...
Councillor Hayward, that's the 5 minutes up. 2 minutes. Is there a seconder for that? All in favour?
Thank you very much, Councillor Morris. It talks in the document that potentially this could be a pilot for other suburbs. And whilst that's true, it's not the motivation for bringing this. The motivation is that if you go down to Withers on any night of the week, you'll find young primary school aged children literally roaming the streets in packs. They're climbing on our gear, they're smashing lights, they're jumping on shade sails. They are children who are unoccupied. And yes, children face a lot of problems, as we found out through the process of talking to the key stakeholders. Some of those things were in the report and some of them are very alarming. But the reality is we can't solve all of those problems. And this particular item does not seek to solve all of those problems. What it seeks to do is to give the children some activity, some capacity to fill their time and to engage them in some positive activity. It will make a difference in the suburb and it will make a difference in those children's lives. And I urge you tonight to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillor Stick.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to reiterate everything that Councillor Hayward has just said. I'd also like councillors to consider that whilst we do have other issues with other suburbs within this city, that, as Councillor Hayward has rightly said, there's been an enormous amount of work put into Withers, and in fact, 4 years prior to council putting this on our radar, the community people were screaming out there. They were absolutely screaming because the place was a war zone. And the kids they don't have much to do. They don't have good role models. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of the residents are not good role models, but what I'm saying is there is a high disadvantaged group in that suburb. So again, just be very clear that if you do nothing tonight, you'll be going backwards. So I urge councillors to support the motion.
Speaker against, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I cannot support this motion because I believe the $115,000 will be wasted on administrative expenses, no matter what the good intentions of the Withers Advisory Committee may be. Another concern I have is in the background report, page 14. The What's Happening, What's Needed workshop held on the 13th of November 2015 invited key stakeholders who were identified as having the expertise, speciality, knowledge and experience within the Withers community, and in particular with children and young people. I don't feel this outcome was achieved because further in the report it states the workshop had considerable attendance from external stakeholders, and collaboratively they identified what programs exist for the children and young people in Withers, what gaps there are and what they considered needs to happen to fill them in the Withers area. Ouch! Once again, Withers youth community is having external good do-gooders telling them what they want and need. No engagement, no empowerment there. Why wasn't the Youth Advisory Committee, a committee of council, invited to participate in the workshop? This committee comprises of community representatives, 12 to 23-year-olds, who represent the youth in our area, including Withers. Another problem I have with this motion is the non-inclusiveness of this proposal. We are one community, warts and all. In principle, I applaud the good intentions of the Withers Advisory Committee. However, I will not vote in favour of this motion. 1, the money's down the drain, not on the ground. 2, non-inclusive. 3, external stakeholders provided advice on what Withers community required. 4, duplication of services. Issues identified are serious concerns, but are dealt with by mental health and welfare agencies, responsibility of state and federal government. And most important of all, 5, youth representation through the Youth Advisory Committee was not invited to the workshop to provide guidance. 6, unwittingly, adults and experts have disempowered our youth once more by not consulting them with the initial stages. Food for thought. Look around us. Bunbury Police and Community Youth Centre is a city-owned asset, situated perfectly in Withers. It has been renovated now and is an untapped community resource that would welcome discussions refunding for the implementation of more quality programs for our youth and infrastructure in the Withers and surrounds. So I will not be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Further speaker 4, Councillor Morris.
I might have a few answers to some of the questions that Councillor McCleary brought up. When we're looking at a community and we say one community, that's exactly what we mean. The problem that exists is not just within Withers, it's throughout the entire city. So what do we have within the group of Withers that they can act as a community? There's 3 organizations really. We have PCYC, we have Newton Moore, and we have the 2 primary schools of St. Mary's and Maiden's Primary School. Those organizations could actually work together to take a look at metro competitions. Metro competitions where we have 20 primary schools within our metropolitan area. We actually have 11 high schools. Now, after teaching at Newton Moore for many years, one of the things that we developed was that we looked at outside activities for kids at that school. It was a problem school, no doubt about it, but they were good kids. You worked with them and they came back and they responded. Now, what we did was we came up with an idea of using a metropolitan, in fact, a regional basketball league. And we had the students from Mandurah down to Manjimup to Collie and all points in between meeting on a Friday night to play basketball. Only we did it on the American system where it was inter-school. Cheerleaders, the band showed up, 200 and 300 kids crammed into the gym to watch it on a Friday night. It gave the kids something to do, but more importantly, it gave them a belonging to a school. Kids at Newton Moore were yelling, "Newton Moore, Newton Moore!" You didn't see that very often in relation to a school, an inner city school, with so many problems in which the kids were yelling for their school. This could be done on academics, it could be done on cultural, it could be done on sporting, but it could actually be done citywide. So when you're talking about one community, PCYC could actually be the driving force of getting the schools together, developing for football, for basketball, for drama, for academic excellence, so the kids belong and they're competing for their school. Sustainable, not just for 2 years, permanently. $115,000 would be a small price to pay for something where the kids feel like they belong to the community. And more importantly, on those Friday nights, parents showed up. Parents were there watching their kids. The band showed up, and the parents of the band members showed up. The student exec ran sausage sizzle. They were raising money in relation to the school for other activities. It was a fundraiser, a dollar entry. All of that came together, all within a very short period of time. Had a lot of people tell me it wouldn't work because it was club organization that we have within sports. But the kids fought tooth and nail to get on those teams because they wanted to represent their school. They wanted to represent their community. And this is what it was all about, community. If we turn around and we say, no to these kids, and there's opportunities that this could be developed, we're shortchanging our future and our kids. Thank you.
Further speaker against? Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think we probably need a definition of community. It features 13 times on the first page of the report that we've been given. The expression of interest, provision of Withers youth programs and services. Just have a look. 13 times is community mentioned. But on Councillor Hayward's own admission, he doesn't know what exactly is going to be rolled out. We're not told in this report. We're told that there's problems. These problems include drug issues, antisocial behaviour, hooning, fighting, vandalism, damage, unsupervised children and truancy, child welfare and safety, family issues, lack of rest, sleep, family issues, rest, sleep, food and diet, lack of rehabilitation facilities and support, crisis centres awareness, generational issues, bullying, intimidation, suicide, drugs and alcohol, and you could add to that list compromised housing and indeed homelessness. Now you tell me, in amongst that list, which of those is a council responsibility? I don't think it is. Where is the placemaker? There was a placemaker employed. Why weren't some of these issues part of the placemaker's mandate? Why is PCYC located on Hay Park? Why was it relocated from Burke Street, beautiful two-storey brick building, to Withers 25, 30 years ago? Well, it was relocated there so it would be closer to the population. So, what's happened with PCYC? Where's its position in that community? The census, previous to the one we've just had, produced some wonderful profiles, suburb profiles. Let's have a look at the Withers suburb profile, will we? Let's see what Withers has got. It's got a library, it's got a family community centre, it's got PCYC, it's got a doctor's surgery, it's got a medical and health centre. Just let's compare that with Glen Iris, will we? A fairly recent recently developed suburb. Library? No. Family community centre? No. Any other sort of community centre? It's got a lot of schools. It's got quite a number of schools, actually. 4 at least. So let's do the comparison. Obviously, Withers had all of those things before the redevelopment surfaced. So, where is the problem? Spending another $115,000 on this program simply won't do it. Councillor Morris mentioned schools involvement. Well, there was a wonderful opportunity for P&Cs to raise money on election day. Where was Maiden Park's effort? Nothing happened there, not even a sausage sizzle, and yet there's an expectation that the schools will get together. No, that's dreaming. I think we should look at fairness and equitability. I think these things aren't peculiar to Withers. We know that some of these issues exist in other places. But we're looking at the expenditure of $115,000 of council money, of ratepayers' money, and we don't even know what we're going to get for our money. So I'm voting against it.
Further speaker 4. Councillor Cook.
Mr Mayor, I'm a little hesitant because the 4 case has been well explained. One thing that has troubled me, even before I was elected to council, is the fact that council don't support their committees. And in fact, that is the reason I ran for council, because I was on the Roadwise Committee, and every time we brought something to council, it was knocked back. So if for no other reason, I would ask you to support this motion, because a committee, an advisory committee of council, and we have precious few of them, because a lot of them have gone. There's positive comments in everything that's been said, even in the negative case. I mean, Councillor McCleary talks about the money being chewed up in admin, and there will be some chewed up in admin, because what's being developed here is a process. And once the process has been developed, it can be rolled out to other suburbs. Councillors, I do urge you to support it. As I said, I think the 4 case has been quite robust. Thank you.
Speaker against, Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I've been on the Withers renewal program since the drum tap some half a dozen years ago, and there was a great effort made by the previous councils to ensure that we put some funding, some resources into ensuring that the fundamentals about Withers changed so that we could uplift that suburb. I agree with everybody on the yes side that something needs to be done, but I also agree with the other side that this is not going to cut it. Indeed, I think the $115,000 that we're looking at spending here is a sugar hit, and we don't want sugar hits because they'll be gone very quickly. Ultimately, we're here upon the recommendation of this committee because we're responsible for the best use of ratepayers' money. If I really believed that the $115,000 was going to make some sort of difference down there, I'd have my hand up real quick. Unfortunately, I don't think that it will. So, simply on that, Mr Mayor, making a decision about spending $115,000, which I don't believe will be sustainable for Withers, I think that that money can be spent better. I also agree that we need to be part of the milieu, part of the mix, part of the organisations that work for Withers in the long term, as we began some years ago, half a dozen years ago, to change fundamentals down in Withers to make sure that we provided the best we could for the uplifting of that suburb. Unfortunately, the $115 is just not a solution, Mr Mayor. It's a sugar hit. It will be gone very quickly and we'll be back to square one. So I can't support it in its form. However, I do encourage everybody to get their shoulder behind the wheel to work out a better solution, a long-term sustainable solution to the myriad of problems that occur not only in Withers but in Glen Iris, in Usher, in Carey Park, and I'll throw in Marsden Hill, East Bunbury, South Bunbury and other places in our entire borough. So, Mr Mayor, I encourage councillors not to support this recommendation and let's keep working at what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Further speaker 4, Councillor McGrail.
Just quickly, Mr Mayor, again following on from what Councillor Cook said, the 4 cases have been outlined very quickly. I just want to touch base on this this motion or notion of the fact that this is ratepayers' money. It is ratepayers' money, don't get me wrong. However, this money was allocated, there was $300,000 allocated from the council to, obviously yearly for the 3 years, to the Withers Advisory Committee to spend how the Withers community thought it was best needed. As the mover, Councillor Hayward, pointed out, the community has been consulted many times and this is what the community wanted. So this funds that are being spent are going to be spent in Withers one way or another. And as we pointed out, or as that committee has pointed out, that this is what they want. So I think we need to support what the Advisory Committee said. As Councillor Cook said, they come back with his advice. And I believe we need to support that, so that's why I'll be voting for this motion. Thank you.
Further speaker against? Question, Councillor McGuinness.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO, just the way that this expression of interest is written, is it, my understanding, I just want to get clarification that a group like PCYC or another community group that's already in situ in the community that has an understanding of the community, are they able to put an expression of interest through this current mechanism that we have in place?
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor, yes, they would be.
Is there a further speaker against? I'll invite Councillor Hayward to close.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of things, just to pick up on a couple of the against arguments. The people that were at the meeting were in fact many people from Withers, and as I explained, it had already gone through a couple of processes. It's come from the community. It's difficult to argue against not spending money, in this instance in Withers, because there are issues in other suburbs. That's absolutely true, and those suburbs do need some action. My role as the chairman of the Withers Advisory Council, though, is to roll out the items that were on the Withers Action Plan, which is what this council asked me to do and what this council asked that committee to do, and that's exactly what it is we've been doing. And I'm disappointed, I have to say, that some of us as councils have such a negative view that things can't be changed down there. The whole idea of this money is it is absolutely not a weakness that there's not a description of what's going to be rolled out. Tonight we've heard Councillor Morris talk about some potential opportunities. We've talked about the PCYC being right in the right spot to take up an opportunity, and no doubt there are other organisations that we were talking with who can. It's not up to us to tell the community how to do it. It's up to us to make the resource available so that we can get them going, and that's what this money's for. So I really would urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put it, councillors. All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's carried. Councillor McCleary, Kelly, Jones and Giles were against. The rest were for. Good debate. 10.1.2, we need an absolute majority, councillors. So is someone prepared to move this one? Councillor McGuell and Councillor Kelly. I'll put it all in favour. It's carried by an absolute majority, unanimously. Thank you. We just roll to 10.3.1, councillors. I'll just get there. Sorry, Councillor Steck, I'll get you in a second. Councillor Steck, you had a question on this one?
Yes, sir. It's just in relation to the Creative Bunbury Strategy Outcomes report. This is solely focused on the regional art galleries and not the entire integrity of the report, but it doesn't actually say that. It only just points to the key priority area 1 and 1.5, where there's other key priority areas where this lapses over and is inclusive. So I'd just make that point that if we could make a change for the minutes, that it's referring to only the art gallery, which is part of the entire report.
Yeah, I'll just ask the CEO to comment on that, Councillor Steck. Yeah,
the question is here, this is the report. We've already adopted the report. The report is very, very clear what the outcomes we want for the arts in the community. But here in this report, it's referring to this complete document, but it's only pulling out one aspect of it.
Yeah, I understand. Thanks.
So I just wanted to know, why is that the case?
The question is to the director or to the manager, just an explanation as to this report appears to Councillor Steck to be focused entirely on the art gallery, whereas the report is the entire city, creative city strategy. Was it the intent to focus on the art gallery, or is it focusing on the whole strategy? Thanks, Mr. Barron.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I am somewhat surprised by Councillor Steck's comments. I don't
read that anywhere in this report, that it's specifically focusing on the art gallery. It talks about outstanding arts facilities, including the Bunbury Regional Entertainment Centre, the Bunbury Regional Art Gallery and Stirling Street Art Centre. It talks about the museum. It talks about opportunities for cultural participation across the city. It talks about digital media hubs. It talks about opportunities for Noongar arts. Yeah, I'm a bit puzzled.
Okay, thank you.
With respect.
Someone prepared to move? Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, I've been hearing in the community that for some reason, and I'll ask the question why this might or might not be so, that in the current format of the art gallery that they're no longer eligible to apply for certain grants. Now, I'm a bit puzzled about that, and I just thought if perhaps I could ask the CEO to clarify that, please.
You can take that matter up with the CEO after the meeting if you wish. This matter doesn't relate specifically to that. Is there someone prepared to move the executive recommendation? Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Giles. Councillor McCleary. Councillor Giles. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Steck.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad that the officer has clarified the point of view that it's an inclusive document, whereas back in June I did ask questions on notice about a particular group that Council has been involved with for several years in relation to a digital media hub, which was known as the VOO Group, and they took up occupancy at the bottom of the library. We were promised 200 jobs and a digital arts centre.
Point of order.
We didn't get it.
Relevance.
Relevance is it's a people...
Councillor Steck, you know,
Sorry,
have a seat. You know the standing orders is probably better than I do when there's a point of order. Okay. So, Councillor Steck, we need you to focus on this particular matter, not the VOO Group, or what was promised.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'll focus on the actual strategy document that Council is wholeheartedly focusing this report on. And given the fact that several key priority areas have been identified over several years and have not been delivered, and yet we were just arguing over $115,000 towards a really good community outcome, and here we've got $1.5 million plus a contract of, well, $300,000 to create a creative strategy, and yet key components of it are missing. I just don't get it. I think there's more work required.
Speaker 4, Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you just need to refer back to the executive recommendation, and that is that Council note the progress and the outcomes against the goals and targets for the next 12 months of a Creative City strategy. Now, it's a work in progress, and that's really important to note that, and that's what we are doing tonight. We are noting the progress. Thank you.
I'll put it. All in favour, please indicate. Those against? 1. That's carried. Thank you. 10.4.1. Thank you, Councillor Steck. Now, is it Mr. Merger? Is there a Mr. Merger or Miss Merger? Sorry. Have I got that pronunciation right? Come through. Merger. I beg your pardon. So you're speaking on this matter, and you have 5 minutes. And there's a clock under me somewhere there.
Is that on? Yep. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, councillors and staff. My name is Daniela Merger from Urbanista Town Planning, and I'm here on behalf of the owner of the Park Shopping Centre and speaking in support of the application for the change of use from shop to medical centre. So I'd like to note that whilst the officers have recommended refusal for the application based on the car parking shortfall, they have also provided an alternative recommendation for approval, which we would like the council to consider tonight. So the proposal is for 7 consulting rooms and 3 treatment rooms, as well as some ancillary rooms such as a waiting area, reception area and staff rooms. Whilst there is a total of 10 rooms there for the purpose of medical treatment, there will only be a maximum number of 5 consultants working at the premises at any one time. So the car parking assessment for the proposal is based on the number of consulting rooms and the total area of the treatment rooms. So this requires a total car parking results in the need for 31 car bays. However, due to the existing shop needing 15 car bays, the proposal results in the need for an additional 16 car bays which have not been provided. So if the car parking was calculated based on the actual number of consultants working at any one time, the total number of bays would be reduced by about 10. So that's important to note as well. Okay, the subject tenancy is located where the existing Civic Video is, and it's behind the service station and the KFC and McDonald's fast food restaurants, and is within the western building of the shopping centre. So that building is predominantly occupied by the big Kmart store, as well as some small takeaway food outlets. And so the main entrance to the Kmart's, so the tenancy is located on the eastern side of that building. However, the main entrance to the Kmart store is on the northern side, with also an entrance to the eastern side. So we think it's quite fair to assume that people going to that shopping centre to use the Kmart store, sort of longer or medium-term trip generation, would park on the northern in the eastern side of the car park, the eastern side, leaving the other side relatively available. And then the takeaway food outlets around there are generally just short trips created from there. So there's a high turnover of parking in that precinct. Okay, so the justification we provided is attached to the agenda report, and it demonstrates that the car parking shortfall will not result in any additional stress on the car parking in the area. So the proposed medical centre is surrounded by takeaway food outlets and have parking which have parking directly adjacent to their respective tenancies, and a drive-through component which does not require the customers to park in the car park. The main entrance to the Kmart is located approximately 100 metres from the entrance of the proposed medical centre. Therefore, it's more likely that customers visiting the Kmart store will park on the northern and eastern car parks than the car park adjacent to the proposed medical centre. So whilst the proposal includes 7 consulting rooms, the maximum number of consultants working at any one time will be 5. It's not uncommon that medical centres operate on this basis, as many doctors work part-time in several practices or in different locations, i.e. hospitals or home visits. So the proposed medical centre will operate on 15-minute appointments, therefore a maximum of 4 customers per hour. This will reduce waiting time and potential overlap of patients. The proposed medical centre has 12 car bays, including 1 disabled bay located directly outside the tenancy, as well as a further 24 car bays within 20 metres of the tenancy. There are 2 bus stops located directly outside the Parks shopping centre, and these are serviced by 3 bus routes. The proposed medical centre is within a shopping centre complex, obviously, and therefore it is likely that visitors to the medical centre will also visit other stores within the complex, therefore creating reciprocal parking uses for the bays. And one more point, the Park Shopping Centre is located approximately 325 metres from the Community Home Care Headquarters and 750 metres from the Bunbury Regional Hospital. And it's considered that these land uses will benefit from an additional medical centre within that locality. So I'd also like to note that the queries raised last week at the briefing session, there was mention about disabled parking, so there is that disabled bay right out the front there. We would be happy to put in another bay if that was something that council would want to consider. And yeah, we just feel that the land use will benefit the local area, and we just urge that council support it tonight. Thank you very much.
Councillors, anyone prepared to move either of the recommendations? I'm happy to take either one. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The alternate recommendation.
Is there a seconder to that one? Councillor Jones. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think that is very reasonable, and I'm delighted to hear that the management are looking at alternative as well as, and that is all I have to say.
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Yes, I'm supportive. We've recently had a doctor start practice in Kerry Park. There's a lot of foot traffic, so I think perhaps a requirement for parking when you've got quite a component of the population living nearby is overstated. So I'm very pleased to second the motion.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak against this? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor McGraw. Mr. McNabb, are you speaking?
Yes.
Welcome. Come to the... Rob, you have a 5-minute period, and there's a clock which you can see. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Brennan, and thanks for the opportunity, councillors, to talk to you regarding this matter. The owner of the property is my daughter, Christy Lee McNabb, now Christy Lee Ugal. Her husband is a fly-in fly-out worker, so he's unable to be here. There's probably a point, the recommendation of council by and large I agree with, except for point 2, and there is a need for clarification. Rather than approve, I suggest it should have been to endorse the recommendation, because the fence was constructed in July 2015 and council staff at that stage said we needed to remove the lattice to bring it back to 1.8 metres high, which was done. We complied with that requirement and had applied in February 2016 to reinstate the lattice on top of our boundary fence. Now the issue arises that this is a corner property, and corner properties always have that problem that the backyard is not secure, as you normally have when you have a neighbour alongside. The whole of the frontage of the house is unfenced, so there's 21 metres of frontage that absolutely preserves the streetscape, but the side of the property and the corner is fenced with 1.8 metre colour bond, and we wish to reinstate the 300mm lattice on top to improve the visual impact. The neighbours who have spoken to us about it keep asking us why did we take the lattice down, and we said, well, that was a council requirement. They think the visual amenity of the property is deteriorated because we've removed the lattice. I understand there was one objection when council explored the matter, and I'm led to believe that that matter was in relation to traffic flow in the region. Now, I think it's fair enough for someone to object, but I think the veracity of that objection needs to be clarified. And a 1.5 metre high fence would have meant they couldn't see round the corner. It is an area that services the Newton, Moore and Adam Road schools, so people do tend to hoon round those corners in school hours and after hours, and you'll note from photos that I've sent to the council, I've had to install bollards in the front yard to protect the front of the house because we've had one car come round the Adam Road, Banting Street corner and actually hit the front of the house when my mother-in-law was living there. And I sent another photo in my deputation attachments that showed skid marks where a car came round the same corner and hit the neighbour's light pole. If it hadn't hit the light pole, I'd suggest it would have been up against the front yard where my daughter had a baby sleeping. There's a letter from Edward and Maxine Forrest, which was a submission that said that they are supportive of us putting the lattice back because it improves the visual amenity. And it also has had, the fence itself has had a great calming effect on traffic in the region. And I suggest because of that rat run experience where people drive down Hodgson Avenue, come round the corner and then out through Banting Street, cutting the corner is no longer an option because they can't see across the property and cut the corner. So I think that's very important, and therefore I'd suggest that the objection on traffic flow reasons becomes irrelevant. On the 29th of July this year we had another break-in, and that was because there was an unlocked gate, and I was there to apprehend the offender along with the police, and the police officer attending was incredulous that we had a problem putting the lattice on top of the fence. He thought it was a joke. I won't reveal his name because the matter is still to be heard before court for criminal offences involved, but it is relevant. The police consider it a bit of a joke that we couldn't put lattice on top of a fence to make the place safer. Very important to us. The council has a septum policy in relation to making the community buildings less susceptible to crime, and I suggest that the same sort of principles ought to apply to private property as well. We are now the drug capital of the world, and this is why the man visited my property on the day, because he had a car full of stolen property ready to be marketed, but that'll be proved in court. The aesthetics of the property will improve dramatically by putting 300mm of lattice on top. It'll make absolutely no difference to the flow of traffic, except they will be calmer anyway. They are calmer now because the fence is in place, and the security of the property will be enhanced. And I would ask that you support the recommendations of the council but add that the 300 mils of lattice can be added to the top of the fence. Thank you.
So I'm prepared to move the recommendation. Councillor Hayward?
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Just wondering what the officer's views are on the 300 mils of...
I'm giving Councillor Hayward a little bit of slack, and you should too. For the benefit of the audience, even though Councillor Hayward has stood at times, he has a broken foot. But anyway, Mr. CEO, who are you flicking this one to? Mr. Farnsworth? Did you get the question?
Yeah, I heard the question.
Thank you.
The recommendation, as it's been put forward, as the conventional Arcode height of 6 foot fence, 1.8 metre high fence, is what we'll be recommending.
And the proposal to add another 300 millimetres to that, can we approve that, Mr. Farnsworth, or does that not within our ambit?
No, you certainly can approve that.
Thank you. So I'm prepared to move. Councillor McCleary.
Check, because number 2 says in the recommendation, if we vote this, says that the front fence and boundary fence, including any association, shall not exceed maximum height of 1.8. We need to change that?
Yes, if you agree with the Speaker, yes. He wants another 300
so I'd like to put
millimetres.
an amendment.
You're moving 1 to 5, and number 2, you're suggesting that go...
I think it's 3.1.
2.1,
sorry. Whoop. 2.1, yes,
Is there a
please.
second to that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Steck. Councillor McCleary, do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think Mr Mayor did a great job.
Councillor Steck, do you wish to speak?
No, sir, the front of the boundary is still permeable with 26 metres, so I have no problem with it.
Is there a speaker against? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So we move to 10.4.3. Now there's a request from Joanne Goff. Joanne, welcome.
Thank
you. You know the 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, off you go.
Mr Mayor, Mr Bryan, councillors and City of Bunbury executives. I'm Raymond Winwood's sister and he's away at the moment, so I'm speaking on his behalf against the recommendation, and I've got some points and some questions, thank you. It's in respects to 2 sea containers at his Gibbs Street property. The sea containers, or storage containers, have been in place for 10 years and they're not used for business or commercial purposes. They're used to store some quality fixtures and fittings, and from a house that was demolished in South Bunbury. It also includes a substantial amount of dressed jarrah. This was purchased, well, my home was demolished and Ray purchased the materials as an investment. The recommendation is that both sea containers be removed. So what happened was in 2015, when the City of Bunbury advertised in the local newspaper that property owners with sea containers needed to lodge a planning application, Ray lodged that planning application. It wasn't because of any public complaints and it wasn't because of any visits from the compliance officer. Comments were received from the adjoining property owner, being that the containers were visible from his rear property. This is only on his carport side and not on a side where there's an alfresco or patio. However, this same adjoining property has previously requested if he could buy one of the storage containers. Around the time that the rear adjoining property was subdivided, a small house was built on it. Ray installed gutters and downpipes onto the containers to ensure that he contained his own stormwater. And I'm also, my point 4 on this was I was asked for clarification that if he'd purchased steel and built a steel shed resembling a sea container, that he wouldn't have needed a planning permission, and in fact then the conditions would be quite different for him. one of the other questions is that when the sea containers were placed in the CBD of the City of Bunbury, did they need a planning approval, and why do those ones not have a roof structure like he needs to have a roof structure? I'd like to request that consideration being given to not make it 60 days that he has to remove both sea containers, that maybe within 60 days he submit a proposal to beautify the 2 sea containers that are currently there, and maybe up to a 2-year extension to allow him appropriate relocation of at least one, if not both, of the sea containers. And I noticed that in one of the agenda items tonight, 10.4.4, that the executive recommendation about a car park for the farmers markets being offered a 2-year period for them to address their car park. So I'm asking that maybe Ray could be allowed 2 years to address his sea container issue.
Thanks, Joanne. Have you finished, or are you just asking more questions?
No, that's it, thanks.
You're normally the person who people ask questions of.
I know.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Have a seat.
Thank you.
A question? We're dealing questions here. Are you asking a question? No, go have a seat, Joanne. Thanks. For what purpose?
I believe that all the questions Joe had to ask just then, that it will be worked out with our planning department and Joe about community council. So I'd like to defer this recommendation until the next sitting.
For 2 weeks.
Yes, please. In order for Joe and the planning department to sit together and work out a compromise.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Kelly. So we're deferring, the proposal is to defer for 2 weeks to enable some discussions to happen and answers to those questions to be given. All in favour? Those against? That's carried. So, Joan, that'll be deferred for 1 round for further discussion and answers to the various questions that you've raised. We move to item 10.4.4. And Mr. McIntosh, welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening to the Honourable Mayor, Councillors, Officers, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bryce McIntosh. I reside in Bar Road. I represent over 40 landholders, or in percentage terms 80% of the complex, who wish to speak against the recommendation 1 to 4 as printed on the agenda. Many of our members here tonight, but unfortunately some of the elderly residents are unable to attend, along with the investment stakeholders who do not reside in Bunbury. All have given authority for us to represent them tonight. How did we get to where we are tonight? At the council meeting held on the 12th of July 2016, the council changed the original proposal and separated Lot 37 Nuncia and Lot 501, the jog track, south of the Trotting Club, which form part of the original proposal. The jog track is leased to the Bunbury Trotting Club until the 27th of the 12th, 2024. The question here that needs to be asked is why it was ever considered in the original proposal. The only explanation available is that 501 was merely a carrot put out to get Nuncia through council so the new depot could progress. Whilst I hope this is not the case, our members clearly have that perception. The rezoning of Lot 37 Nuncia Avenue as a standalone option was never in the original proposal put to the residents. The Shire moved to form a committee with the intention of further planning and research being conducted for the surrounding areas. Whilst I'm sure the Council has endeavoured to move forward with the best intentions, the proposed committee, we believe, is grossly unbalanced, and the relevance of the proposed members needs to be questioned, which requires further consideration. Taking into consideration that Lot 501 is out of the picture and leased until the end of 2024, we see no relevance or need for consultation for residents near or around 501 at this time. The average age of title holders in day-to-day planning is not normally considered as relevant, but in this case it's extremely important. The complex residents are an average age of approximately 64 years of age. When asked what does the Racing and Wagering Western Australia, the Turf Club and the Trotting Club have to do with my or other key stakeholders' land, they are currently not on our titles. What does the above residents that we just spoke of have to offer the above mentioned group at 64 years of age? How can they assist with what's going on there? Our members are of the opinion that the way in which the city has handled the rezoning issue from the start, the majority of our members will be deceased before the requested and required result becomes fruition. It is our belief that the Bunbury City members have clearly been misinformed and misled with regard to the status of the majority of the stakeholders in the stable precinct. We ask the Honourable Mayor and councillors to defer the committee at this stage so the community can have a clearer and better opportunity to inform themselves and provide feedback to the council and assist in making their determination and consult with the Shire to progress this matter. The committee, as proposed, does not address the wishes nor aspirations of the vast majority of folk in the stable complex. The Honourable Mayor has always been a great advocate with regard to consultation, so we are confident you will support this proposal. We believe it is important that whatever resources that the Shire commits to needs to be in the best interests for the 16,542 ratepayers, so the committee proposed has to show relevance with proportionate considerations and based on fact, not fiction. Our committee has appointed a consultant planner, Mr. Gary Fitzgerald, to assist with this matter moving forward with the sole aim of achieving a positive outcome for all parties involved. We believe that Mr. Fitzgerald brings vast knowledge, understanding, experience into the equation, which will assist in streamlining positive options in a professional manner, which will benefit all stakeholders. I thank you for your time tonight.
Mr. Fitzgerald, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Gary Fitzgerald. I'm Director of TECON WA. Mr. Mayor, councillors, TECON has been engaged, as you've heard, by the landowners in the area referred to as the Bar Road Stables Precinct. The group represents landowners who wish to progress the rezoning of their land from the current R5 density to a higher density. As outlined by Mr. McIntosh, the group of landowners represents over 80% of the landowners in the precinct. Mr. Mayor, councillors, the landowners appreciate the importance of the matter and council's goal to proceed as soon as possible. However, there are several concerns that the landowners would like to bring to council's attention. In particular, the landowners would like to register their concerns with the processes undertaken so far as regards to what appears to be a major change in the direction of council on the progression of the rezoning of the land referred to in the Stables Precinct. In particular, from a position being recommended to progress a structure plan to rezone the area in question to a higher residential zoning to what now appears to be a process that is entwined in a complex planning process with absolutely no guarantee of what outcomes there will be. Furthermore, the landowners are also concerned that the recommendation at tonight's meeting involves a membership and a structure of working groups and committees that is in the opinion of the group and not promote an outcome that is equitable and fair representation of the landowners. The changes that have occurred in recent times has caused a level of confusion amongst the landowners, which they believe warrants council deferring the matter so that the landowners can inform themselves of exactly what is being proposed and what impacts that this will mean to them and their properties. In regards to tonight's item, 10.4.4, the landowners respectfully request that council defer consideration of the matter. Council, the landowners are only requesting a deferral of the item, which in light of the circumstances and the timeframes associated with the issue up to date, which has been ongoing since early 2015, would not seem an unreasonable request. As I'm sure you appreciate, the landowners are generally not familiar with the complexity of the planning framework and what's being proposed. As stated, the landowners believe that there was, up until the meeting of the 12th of July, a strong indication from council through an extensive consultation process that the city were intending on progressing a structure plan encompassing both council land and managed land private within the Stables Precinct. Maintaining a few issues that they'd just like to bring to your attention, that is that the maintenance of the maintaining the ancillary stable precinct is not a necessity to the viability of the industry particularly, in as such that Bunbury has an abundance of rural zone land within close proximity of both tracks. It would, in my opinion, be a far better planning outcome to focus on the best and most efficient use of the land, including rezoning of the land to a higher density. In summary, the residents respectfully request Council to consider the following matters. One, that the landowners believe that there has been, up until recently, an extensive consultation process and are concerned that it appears Council is now changing direction on the matter. Two, that the landowners are concerned that the proposed membership structure of the project group gives them very little consideration/input into the process and what appears to them and what happens to their land, beg your pardon. And three, the residents in the precinct would like to clearly articulate to Council that they would like to progress an immediate rezoning of the land. To that end, councillors, the landowners, as I said earlier, are respectfully requesting a deferral of the item so that they'd have literally just time to consider what impacts that they have. They're not against the proposal in general, but they'd like a little more time to consider what it involves for them. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Hayward. Second up. Councillor Giles. Councillor Hayward.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I am prepared to move this recommendation because actually the best way to solve this for the community is actually to get this group established and started and moving. The idea to defer it will actually ultimately create more delays at the other end, and I think the group has the potential to be able to solve the issues that the community has concerns about and the ones that have been raised tonight in terms of working the plan forward to being able to get an outcome that the community is chasing. So I think that the logical step is to get going with this committee, get the community on board with that, give them the opportunities to bring their information through to that group. Obviously, the group that's spoken tonight is quite organised. Gary's representing them. He's got a great reputation in town. He knows what he's doing, so there's no question that their input will be considered, and he'll make sure that that's the case. So I actually think the best way to get this solved is to actually get started and get moving. So on that basis, I'd like to move the motion.
Just to clarify, councillors, we get 1 to 3 up, and then we'll deal with number 4, appointing a chair. Councillor Giles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I agree with Councillor Hayward. This has been going on for a long time. I think there has been a lot of opportunity for people to have input into this. I think it's time we actually got down to tin tacks and tried to formulate a plan. I think there is representation on these various groups to get that plan up and running. So I do think we need to actually move forward and not keep deferring. Thank you.
Speaking against, Councillor Kelly.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to move the deferral.
Well, for what reason and for how long?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I think that the information that we've been given by the two speakers tonight is clearly indicating that the people who have been 80%, I believe, or more, of the people who are really keen to see some sort of rezoning scheme amendment have made it quite clear. They've been bamboozled by this, Mr. Mayor.
So, Councillor Kelly...
And I believe they need that time to get back to tin tax so they can work out what they need to do. Thank you.
So somewhere along there, bamboozle and get back to tin tax. I'm sure you're more articulate than that, Councillor Kelly. You're seeking a deferral.
I am, Mr.
To better inform people who are concerned about the process.
That's correct.
And who's seconding that?
Sir, can I just clarify a question? Is it also to seek further consultation with the group? Because I note that there was a problem with the actual makeup of the group and the consultation. So to get Councillor Kelly's sort of wording right, could it be for further consultation and on the makeup of the actual committee itself,
Well,
sir?
Councillor Kelly's moving it. It's up to him what he puts in there.
Mr. Mayor, I think the deferral's on the basis of the fact that they really need to regroup with council to make sure that they fully understand what's going on here.
So you're deferring for 1 round?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, and who's seconding? Councillor Cleary. I'll put it all in favour of deferring for 1 round, which is 2 weeks. Those against? That's carried. I think it was 7-6, Mr. CEO. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be deferred for 2 weeks to enable that process to occur. Thank you. We move to 10.4.5. Councillor Kelly, Councillor McGuell, thank you. Councillor Jones also departs. So someone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillors, can I have your attention, please? Prepared to move this? Thank you, Councillor Steele. Is there a seconder? Councillor Steck. Is there likely to be any debate? I'll put it all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Cook. Would you mind? Thank you. Thanks very much, councillors. Councillor Warnock's just left the meeting. 11.1, someone prepared to move that application be approved. Councillor Jones, Councillor Giles, all in favour. It's carried unanimously. Councillor Monique Warnock enters the room. 11.2, someone prepared to move that this... Oh, thank you. Councillor Cook with a heavy heart and Councillor Jones, all in favour. It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 11.3, Councillor Giles' request. Councillor Cook, Councillor Jones, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Councillors, thank you very much. I declare this meeting closed at 6:39 p.m. Thanks, officers, and thank you to the members of the public.
That was it. Monday, we didn't say what year.